So this video is actually born out of an email I got from one of my subscribers recently. They reached out asking a really interesting question about finding your niche as a filmmaker, and it got me thinking. This is something a lot of you might be wondering about too. So today we're going to talk about this whole idea of finding your niche, and more importantly, why it's not always about the niche itself even. I want to start by sharing one of my favorite quotes from director Jordan Brady: "Put yourself in a box." Now at first it might sound somewhat counterintuitive, right? But the idea behind it is actually fascinating. It's about packaging yourself up in a way that people then recognize you for something very specific. And I believe it doesn't have to be a niche in that traditional sense, like I make videos about cooking or I'm a fitness filmmaker. No, I think it's bigger than that. I think it's about your voice, your style, your tone, your personality. That's what people will start coming to you for. People will come to you for that thing you're known for. But it's not about the topic, it's about how you tell the story. A lot of people think they need to pick a specific category, whether it's, food, fitness, travel, whatever, and then just stick to it. I mean, it sounds simple, but the problem here is that when you get too focused on finding that right niche, you can lose sight of what's really important, which is storytelling. It's not about forcing yourself into that box. Instead, I think it's about leaning into what you genuinely love about storytelling and really honing in on that. And even within categories like fitness, for example, there's a million ways to tell a story. If you love making comedy, for example, and you pick fitness as your niche, but then a brand comes to you asking for something dramatic and epic, you're cooked. You've boxed yourself into a corner because your storytelling voice isn't aligned with the work they're asking for. And it's not about just the category, it's about staying true to how you like to tell stories again. So here's a little exercise you can do on your own. Think about the filmmakers, YouTubers, musicians, or storytellers that you really admire. Are you following them because of their specific niche, or are you following them because you love their voice, their personality, their unique way of telling stories? More often than not, it's not the niche, it's the way they tell stories that really draws you in. And in fact, I've noticed that in myself. Sometimes I start gaining interest in a topic because of the personality behind it, and not because I had an innate interest in that subject to begin with. It's their storytelling and their voice that pulls me in, and that excites me, and that makes me come back. When you open up and start being honest about what you like, and you dive deep into what excites you about storytelling, your voice starts to come through. When your storytelling gets strong enough to a point where people start tuning in, not because of the topic, but because they connect with you, it doesn't matter if you're covering fitness one day and travel the next day. Your audience will show up because they love your style and the way you tell stories. And that's when you really start to stand out among the crowd. Now, what happens when this starts to click is agency creatives, producers, and production companies, they start noticing you. And not just noticing, they'll start reaching out to you because they want your style and your tone, and you won't have to chase them or beg them to trust you with their ad budgets. They'll come to you because you've built something that's already resonating with the audience. And if this is already happening to you, that's a very good indicator that you're directionally correct. When brands are coming to you, that's the moment you double down. Not only you are staying true to yourself, but you're also making money off of what you love, and that's a huge win, not just in filmmaking but in life in general. Now on the flip side, let's talk about what happens when you just pick a niche to serve it. I think it's pretty short-sighted. When you're constantly chasing a niche and trying to fit into that mold, you end up in a position where you have to run after brands, begging them to trust you, and you have to convince them to take a chance on you. And honestly, it can get tiring and exhausting very quickly. And the thing is, if they're not gonna like the stuff you produce, there's no social proof to back you up. But when you've already built your audience and people are already tuning in for your voice and your style, it changes everything. Brands can see people are already bought into your work, they're already engaged, and that gives them that reassurance they need. When brands are spending hundreds of thousands on productions, they want to make sure they're making the right choice, and your audience give them that confidence they need. This is why it's so important to focus on what you love and not just on picking a niche. It's a long-term game, and when you focus on your craft, on telling stories your way, the audience will just follow eventually. The brands will follow, and that's where you want to be. So to sum it up, don't stress about chasing a niche. Instead, I think focus on telling the stories that make you feel something inside. Then repeat it again and again and get really good at that. And when you do, you'll attract the right people, the people who appreciate your voice, your storytelling, and they'll be willing to pay your worth. And when brands start reaching out to you because of your unique tone, you'll know you're on the right track. And so that's the key difference. All right, I hope this gives you some new perspectives on how to approach finding your niche, or rather why it's not really about finding your niche, but about building it. If this resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more insights. And as always, drop your questions and thoughts in the comments section. I'd love to hear from you. Check out the links in the description, and I'll see you guys next week.